There is a lot of questions. There are a lot of questions about why you have not chosen to speak up publicly in defense of your employees, including those who testified before the impeachment inquiry. Can you explain why you haven't chosen to make comments in their support?
I'm happy to talk about Ukraine policy today. I'm not going to get into the issues surrounding the Democrat impeachment inquiry. Just not going to do it today. It is worth noting that Ambassador Yovanovitch's departure preceded the arrival of Bill Taylor. So there's some ideas out there that somehow this change was designed to enable some nefarious purpose. You should all just look at the simple fact that it was Bill Taylor that replaced Ambassador Yovanovitch, who in each case has been driving towards the appropriate Ukraine policy, which I'm happy to talk about. I'm proud of what this administration has done with respect to Ukraine. We reversed the massive failures of the Obama administration's policy towards Ukraine, which truly did risk the lives of Ukrainian people and allowed Vladimir Putin to take Crimea and to fight in the Donbass against a group of Ukrainians who wanted nothing more than to defend their nation, but were given just blankets and non-lethal equipment. I'm proud of what we've done. President Trump's policy has been consistent throughout. The State Department is fully supportive not only of what we've done, but our Ukraine policy moving forward.
But no defense of your employees?
Nadia?
Always defend state more employees. It's the greatest diplomatic corps in the history of the world. Very proud of the team.
Thank you, Morgan.
This is Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, the latest administration official to have been trotted out to try and defend Trump's blatantly corrupt behavior. And while right out of the gate, he claims that he won't discuss Trump's impeachment, he does manage to touch on it just enough to make a fool of himself. Pompeo dives into his first excuse, which is that Marie Yovanovitch's departure preceded the arrival of Bill Taylor, which I guess Pompeo thinks absolves the administration of all wrongdoing. That because Bill Taylor took over, there couldn't possibly have been any nefarious activity related to her dismissal. But two things. One, that doesn't change the fact that Marie Yovanovitch was still removed for refusing to play ball with this administration. So it doesn't matter who she was replaced with, the point is that she was removed from her post in the first place for the sole reason that she wouldn't be a willing accomplice as the White House began using US foreign policy for partisan political purposes. And two, Yovanovitch's replacement, Bill Taylor, also testified that there was a partisan hijacking of our foreign policy, that US military aid was conditioned on the Ukrainians opening an investigation into Biden. He testified that such a move is unprecedented in US foreign policy, and he testified that Trump cared more about carrying out the sham investigation of Joe Biden than he did about Ukraine's safety.
And finally, as the committee is aware, I wrote that withholding security assistance in exchange for help with a domestic political campaign in the United States would be crazy. I believed that then, and I believe it now.
Ambassador Taylor, in your decades of military service and diplomatic service representing the United States around the world, have you ever seen another example of foreign aid conditioned on the personal or political interests of the President of the United States?
No, Mr. Goldman, I've not. But President Trump did insist that President Zelensky go to a microphone and say he is opening investigations of Biden and 2016 election interference. In the presence of my staff, at a restaurant, Ambassador Sondland called President Trump and told him of his meetings in Kyiv. The member of my staff could hear President Trump on the phone asking Ambassador Sondland about the investigations. Ambassador Sondland told President Trump the Ukrainians were ready to move forward. Following the call with President Trump, the member of my staff asked Ambassador Sondland what President Trump thought about Ukraine. Ambassador Sondland responded that President Trump cares more about the investigations of Biden, which Giuliani was pressing for.
So if Pompeo's excuse is really, hey look, nothing nefarious here, we replaced Yovanovitch with this other guy who's legit, only to have Bill Taylor corroborate Yovanovitch's story, is a massive miscalculation on Pompeo's part. He goes on to frame it as Bill Taylor driving towards some appropriate Ukraine policy that Yovanovitch was supposedly not moving toward. But the only, quote, policy that the Trump administration was enacting was what John Bolton described as the drug deal of investigating a sham conspiracy theory that the DNC server servers hidden in Ukraine, as well as securing the promise of an announcement of an investigation into Joe Biden. And when she became an early obstacle for Giuliani in his quest to move forward with this, he began attacking her, claiming that she was running counter to Trump's Ukraine policy, even though the only thing she was actually running counter to was giving oxygen to Giuliani's BS conspiracy theories. And by the way, it's not like Bill Taylor did anything differently than Yovanovitch. There wasn't some major shift now that Yovanovitch was out and Taylor was in. The White House is just pretending like there was so they can use it as an excuse for having fired her. In reality, she was already acting in the best interest of the United States. It was Trump who wasn't. Pompeo goes on to parrot yet another debunked theory that Ukraine has actually been better off under the Trump administration than under the Obama administration, repeating the claim that all Obama gave them was blankets. In reality, between 2014 and 2016, the Obama administration committed over $600 million in security assistance to Ukraine, including counter-mortar radars, night vision devices, medical supplies, and 230 Humvees. So while I can't speak for Pompeo, I'm pretty sure he doesn't use a counter-mortar radar as a blanket. And beyond that, Ukraine didn't even have to be extorted to get their aid in the Obama days. Imagine that. So Mike Pompeo can pretend that no one has done more to protect Ukraine than Donald Trump, but the fact is that, as Bill Taylor testified, Trump didn't even care about Ukraine beyond the Biden investigation, and actually put the country in harm's way while withholding desperately needed military assistance until he could exact some demands from them first. In other words, I'm not quite sure Ukraine would agree that their safety was the White House's #1 priority here. But hands down, the most hypocritical part here is Mike Pompeo saying that he always defends State Department employees, considering he literally said nothing in defense of Marie Yovanovitch, the former ambassador to Ukraine, who was attacked by Trump and Giuliani and unceremoniously fired, all because she refused to turn the State Department into a partisan circus. Pompeo is also contending with reports of low morale in the State Department, as we await the results of the State Department Inspector General investigation into alleged political retaliation against career staffers. So I'm not sure what State Department Pompeo is referencing with his dead-eyed pep talk, but I can't imagine that it's ours. And look, I know I shouldn't be surprised, but it's still shocking how Mike Pompeo can manage to lie so easily and shamelessly in front of the entire nation. Although, at this point, I suppose that's the only reason he still has his job.